Hello everyone, welcome to today's special interview with June on her YouTube channel. I'm Linda, and though you won't see me on camera, I'll be asking June some questions and guiding our conversation today. I'm thrilled to introduce you to my dear friend June Neckie, an incredibly talented author who is about to publish her long-awaited memoirs. We'll dive into her creative process, the inspirations behind her stories, and what readers can expect from her upcoming release. So let's get started by meeting June. Hi June, how are you today?
Oh, hi Linda. I'm fine. I'm looking forward to this.
Good, I'm glad. Okay, so we'll start with the first question then.
Okay.
What motivated you to write your memoirs, and can you share a story or moment that inspired you to start this journey of writing?
I can. I've had to think about it quite a lot because there's one or two things. Exactly what it was the discovery of gold leaf, small pieces of gold leaf that my great-grandfather had used in Egypt.
Really?
Yes. He lived in London. Mm-hmm. He was a gilder. His name was Henry Kell, and he was asked in 1923, when Tutankhamun's tomb was opened, to sail over and to re-gild the chair or throne, I'm not sure which it was, and he did that. And we've inherited those pieces of gold leaf.
Really?
Yeah, so I give them to my grandchildren to take to school when they do an Egypt session, and that was a good way to start writing memoirs.
Yes.
I thought. Yeah,
that's lovely. That's interesting. Very nice. What were some of the biggest challenges you faced while you're writing your memoirs?
Oh, the biggest challenges were, initially it was fine because I just write little pieces. The big challenge was to sequence them.
Yes.
And to how many to put in, what to leave in, what to leave out, and it was really difficult.
Yes.
That's taken a lot of time.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that's the same with any writer, don't you?
I do. Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
So are there any achievements or moments in the process that you're particularly proud of?
Well, there's a number of things. It's when I've been a little bit fearless, I've taken challenges, and I've written about those challenges. And of course, at first, I never expected to be published.
No.
It was for the family. So I hadn't got that fear of what will the public think. But now we've reached that spot. Okay.
Yeah, okay. What are the central themes of your memoirs?
The first part of the memoirs are my beginnings, that's what it's called. And it begins with what I call when the Italian and Welsh cultures clash. When my Welsh mother met my Italian father, and they eventually married. And so his family came from the mountains of Tuscany, and her family come from the valleys of Wales.
Wow,
So it's interesting.
It is. What a nice combination. Is there a particular message or lesson you hope readers will take away from your story?
Well, the first thing is I'd like people to think about writing the memoirs. You don't have to be a writer, because you can write it for your own pleasure, not necessarily for publishing. I think it's important for your family that they have that written down, and it can be passed down the generations.
Yes,
it becomes more important as the years go by.
Definitely, and it's a lovely thing to pass down, isn't it? Can you describe your writing process? How do you gather your thoughts and get them onto the page?
I begin with an event or a happening or a holiday or a family memoir. And it's the first line I'm really interested in. I'm almost obsessed with it because I realise it invites the reader in, but more importantly, from a writer's point of view, it's really exciting just to get the right words.
It's like
the
a
opening
hook.
of a book.
Yes.
It's a hook. Yes, it is. Yeah.
No, I agree with you there. And how do you decide, this must be very difficult, what to include in your memoirs and what to leave out?
That's one of the hardest parts. It's really difficult. We'll have to think about it in terms of publishing from the reader's point of view, what they may or may not be interested in.
Yes.
So obviously there's memoirs, there's my holiday experiences, my work experiences, and I hope that people can be entertained by some of these. Yeah.
I suppose now that you're deciding to publish your memoirs, there are certain things that you would have put in the family memoirs that you might not want in your public memoirs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Who do you think will connect with your stories the most?
Who would connect with my story? I think probably more females than males. I have the experience as a mother of 4. I'm married for 17 years and then a single mother for many years. So I think that women in those situations, there are many of us.
Yeah.
So I think that would be interesting. Also, what I call opening the door to experiences and take up that challenge and not be fearful. We only live once.
Yeah, you do. Well, I know you quite well, as you're a friend of mine, and you're never one to shy away from a challenge. What do you think will surprise the readers the most about your memoirs?
What will surprise them? I think probably the diverseness of it, because it covers so many areas, you know, beginning with the memoirs of the war and taking ourselves through the war, and then myself leaving school, having jobs, raising a family, and then I move on to things like other experiences, whether it's work, holidays. I've also got a small chapters on each of my parents, because Bunny and Gwyneth were entrepreneurs, very much sort of, they're called Samaritans in the area they lived in. They were very giving of themselves, but they're also very funny, got a sense of humour. So I have some lovely stories about this.
Oh, that's good. I'm looking forward to reading it myself. Are there any writers or books that have influenced your writing the most?
Yeah. Years ago I read Cider with Rosie, which took place, it was the memoirs of Laurie Lee, and it took place in a little village that he was born in. I know that reasonably well because one of the places I was evacuated to was close to this village. But more importantly, I love the simplicity of his lines. Want me to read you one?
Yes, that would be lovely.
I love first lines, you know that now, don't
yes,
you?
Yes.
And I've got one here, which I will read. Laurie Lee's, so Laurie Lee's description of Cider with Rosie as a memoir. The first line was, this is a 3-year-old child, okay. I was set down from the carrier's cart at the age of 3, and there was a sense of bewilderment and terror in my life, and the village life had just begun. The June grass amongst which I stood was taller than I was, and I wept. And this is a 3-year-old being moved into a new home. His sisters had put him into the grass, and you can just be there with that child. What lovely opening lines.
It is, yes.
Who could resist that?
Yeah. Yeah, and it really does paint a picture without going on too much.
That's right.
Yeah.
There are others, I have to say, Linda. There's also George Orwell, coming up for air. I know he wrote 1984 and so on, but this one, it's comical, pessimistic, and it's a social document. And again, I love his lines. His first opening line, if I can go back to opening lines, his opening line was that it was the day that I had my false teeth. I mean, who would begin a story with that? Also, I like the short stories of here we are, Oh, we've got Rachel Joyce here. Sorry, I'm jumping on a bit. I discovered Rachel Joyce in the recent years. Her book, The Unlikely Pilgrimage of Harold Fry, what an unlikely title for a story, was made into a film. I've read it 3 times. I don't read books more than once.
Yeah.
It's marvellous, and she's written other books,
Yeah.
and she's a modern writer.
Yes.
And yeah,
Great. Do you want to do that section again?
can do.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask you the question again. I'll cut this bit.
Let me just, I've got to find my place on here, that's why. Hold on. Rachel Joyce. Oh yeah, there, I've got it.
Okay. So, June, who are the writers or books that have influenced your writing the most?
Okay, I'll name them. Anton Chekhov.
Mm-hmm.
I love his short stories because they're succinct.
Right.
I have Laurie Lee,
Yeah.
Cider with Rosie. Most people have heard of that. They often did it at GCSE in schools,
Oh, really?
actually. Yeah, beautifully written one. I'll read you the first lines.
Yeah, that would be lovely.
I was set down from the carrier's cart at the age of 3, and there with a sense of bewilderment and terror my life in the village began. The June grass amongst which I stood was taller than I was, and I wept. Who could resist those opening lines?
I know.
A little 3-year-old moving house and dumped in the grass.
Yeah.
It's wonderful, isn't it?
Yes. Right.
George Orwell,
Mm-hmm.
Coming Up with Air. I love his, again, it's a book I read a few times. His first line was, "The idea really came to me the day I got my false teeth."
I love it.
I love everything about his writing.
Yeah.
And then Rachel Joyce, fairly modern addition to my library, let's call it. The Unlikely Pilgrimage of Harold Fry. People will have seen the film. The book is brilliant.
Ah,
Yes.
right.
Don't recommend anyone to read that, but she's writing more books since then. But she's a very special modern writer. So,
Right.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Well, how do you hope your story will impact others?
Well, I hope that others would feel that they also can write their memoirs, if only for their family. Don't let those memories be lost. This is the important thing. So many people say to me, why didn't I ask my mother? Why didn't I ask my father? Why didn't I write it down? And always remember, it's never too late to open new doors.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Do you have plans for more books in the future?
I would like to write an illustrated book for schools about the war period as a sort of social document for modern children.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good idea.
That's what I'm really interested in.
I
Yeah.
don't think there's anything like that, is there? In the schools.
There was
at the
one
moment?
done some years ago.
Was there?
Yeah.
Okay. What are your upcoming creative projects or aspirations?
When this is published, I hope to set to work on a large canvas for the Harbour Hospital in Poole
Yeah.
for their exhibition. Well, for the exhibition, yeah.
Okay. How can readers engage with you after reading your memoirs? Are there forums or social media groups?
Yes, yeah, there will be, and I'll let you know about that.
Okay. What kind of feedback or discussions do you hope your memoirs will inspire?
I hope they focus on the early part of my memoirs, and particularly the war years, because there is so much material in there,
Yeah.
and increasingly it gets overlooked.
Yes.
I would really like that, yeah.
Is there a particular anecdote in your memoirs that holds a special place in your heart? Can you share it with us?
Well, there are a few. Probably the one I would choose would be the one when I was teaching art in prison. And I was asked to do, because of my interest in West Indian culture, which had developed while I was teaching, I was asked would I do a West Indian culture course for the in the prison adjoining it for the older males, long-term males. I was really excited about that. But I did find difficulty in the beginning because my usual excitement, the reality was on a Monday morning I'm sitting down in a prison room with 4 mica tables, no ambience at all, and I'm waiting for these guys with dreadlocks to come down. And here am I, a little white woman. So, I was really, it was fight or flight. And I'll never forget, I heard the pounding, you hear the pounding of the steps coming as they're coming down, and then they stopped dead at my door and nobody came in. So I went and had a look, and there's these guys 6 feet odd with dreadlocks standing there like, what's this, what? I said, yeah, you're in the right room. So they sat down soundlessly, and I'm sitting there thinking, how do I fill this gap? They were waiting, I didn't know what to do. I almost ran away, but I didn't quite. And then I thought, just go for what the problem is. So I said to them, I guess what you're thinking is, what's a white woman doing running a West Indian culture course? And I went on to say that I am white, but I'm Italian Welsh, got some Romany in me, but I've always had a really deep interest in West Indian culture. And that was it. But the outcome was wonderful.
Yeah, it sounds like they were just as scared to come in the room as you were scared for them to come in.
They were. They were. It was a lovely ending to it, and hopefully people, if they read my book, they'll agree with me about that.
Yeah, well, that sounds interesting. I can't wait. As we close, this is my last question. You are an artist and you teach art, don't you?
I do.
Yes. Well, hopefully in future videos we might get some of your artwork on video.
Why not?
And I can see that you've got a sculpture there on the windowsill of one of the sculptures you've done. So you've been teaching art, you've taken sculpture classes. Anything else in the creative area? Writing, sculpture, painting, I mean, you've done it nearly all.
What is interesting, actually, is something you can't see, but I've had an ongoing interest for many years, because I thought I had a theory, I think I have a theory, as to what can trigger multiple sclerosis. So that's always going on in the background of everything.
So you're very interested in health as well.
I am very interested.
And this, I believe, is triggered by your daughter Donna.
Yes.
Yes. I can see the book behind you over your right shoulder, Kissing Donna Better.
That's right, yes. I was very much involved with that because after my daughter's death, I went to work as a volunteer in London in the College of Radiology, and there were 6 oncologists and 6 cancer patients while I hadn't had cancer. Because I'd spent the 2 years prior to my daughter's death with her, I was absolutely involved. So I went in to be her voice in there.
Right, okay.
And it was called, COPLG was the title of this course. And it was to improve cancer care, basically, which just sounds very casual, but in fact it's really serious.
Yeah.
And I was able to have them include in the brochures that were printed going out to hospitals, to include in terms of privacy, which is a really important thing, it comes up quite a lot, to provide a mirror in the radiation room where my daughter would go into the radiation room with her little wig on. She'd come out with a wig in her hand and have to walk the whole length to a toilet to find a mirror. And how easy was that to do that? Yeah. One thing more was that when she was admitted because she had severe reaction to radiotherapy, she began the radiotherapy again, and I would go down with her with the porter to the area where she was to have it, but it was a big public area. It was like a warehouse filled with the outside public. Now how that public would feel to see this girl with stitches in her head being exposed publicly, and she was a very private girl. So what was set up was have a screen, to protect them from the public gaze.
Yeah.
And that was included in the brochure, so I'm really happy about that.
Well done. These little things make such a difference.
They do, yeah,
Yeah.
they do. That's why this particular course was put on.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, so it was, yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, that brings our questions for today. I'm sure we'll have another session.
Okay.
You've got a fan base. Is it up in Kennock?
Yes, it is.
Yes.
Yeah,
And I believe you've got a few dotted around the world as well.
I have too.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I'm sure that they would like to get to know you even more.
Yeah.
So we'll bring this to a close today, but it's been lovely chatting to you,
Yes,
June.
yes, yes.
And thanks very much.
That was really interesting. Thank you, Linda.
You're welcome.